you so much. Warning to you, sir. 10 years ago, Jack Daniels came up to me in Boston, and he said, hey, there's this thing called B-Sides. I'm like, oh, okay. And then next thing I know, I'm running a B-Sides. So, welcome, be careful. Things go crazy. Yeah, so 2 things you guys need to know other than B-Sides is, one, this talk is on breaking and entering into information security, into this field, into this community. It is a call to those of us who are here, and a call to those of us who are coming in. That's number 1. Number 2 is I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong. I'm totally wrong. And so, this is the most right wrong you're gonna hear, but when I say things you don't like, you can hit me up on Twitter, you can talk to me afterwards. I would love to hear what I'm missing. I'd love to get better at this, because we need to get better at getting people in. A lot of my background comes from something that I did for about 4 years, something I was very proud of. That's me on the right. And that's a whole bunch of young kids. We ran a thing called CBI Academy for a consulting firm in Detroit. Did it for about 4 years. It was great, it was fun, it was a 2-year program. Get these people in. We had a lot of applicants, like 55 for every 1 person we hired, so hard to get in. And then we train them up, and we do shadowing, and we jump in to do things. We'd fire jump and do pen testing and blue team and IR and all sorts of junior level work. It was a lot of fun. And that gave me a good perspective about what it takes to get in the industry. Today, of course, I'm at Duo, and that's me on the right. It's a little bit different. I'm with a lot of senior people in the field, a lot of expert people. I get to hear about things from that perspective, right? And when you get a group of CISOs together, you might be wondering, like, what's a group of CISOs called? You know, like birds, flock of birds. No, that's not it. School, no, that's fish, or something that a lot of us got to skip to get into this industry. Ha! No, it's a snooze of CISOs, in case you're wondering. It's exhausting. So this talk is fundamentally aimed at 2 audiences. It's aimed at our folks who are in this industry, who are at the peak of our careers, and it's aimed at a lot of the other folks who are coming in. So, with that, 1, who doesn't like avocado toast? What is it against avocado toast? No, whenever I hear people complain about millennials, I can't help but remember when I was in the 90s and first getting started out. And when I was in the 90s and first getting started out, I was always the youngest man on every team. I never got the joke. I still don't quite understand 10X. I would love to understand it, and maybe Jack will enlighten me. But I think back to what it was like when my generation was coming in, and we had a lot of things against us. Now you may say, hey, millennials are entitled, they're lazy, they're unfocused, they're antisocial. And I will say different. Working with 67 of them over the past few years, they're fantastic and they're creative. But I remember as a Gen Xer hearing that we were cynical, that we're slackers, that we're angsty and disrespectful. And to that I'll say, yeah, you're right. I mean, but we got jobs and now we can get you guys. No, but I mean, and you go back, right? The generation before, they had their moment. They were kind of unusual too. You go back 1 generation later to the greatest generation. Just take a moment and look at these people. Look at these people staring at their devices, not talking to people, isolated. Kids these days. Here's a quote, and I love this quote. Kids love luxury these days. They're disrespectful. They have contempt for authority. They love to chat. Probably text messaging. Any guys know who said this quote? Yeah.
Plato?
Very close. The answer was Plato. The actual answer is Socrates. Off by 1 generation. See, it's a generational problem, man. Socrates, 5th century BCE, is complaining about kids these days. He was actually complaining about Plato. The thing is that I would argue that all young generations are screwed up. We all are. The difference isn't in whether or not we're screwed up, or how much we're screwed up. It's the difference in which way. And it's that which way that allows us to go, kids these days. Now you may be wondering, okay, that's fine, Plato, Socrates, all these sort of things. I'm not here to learn about the history of generations, I'm here to learn about computers. So let's bring it down to computers for just a moment. We are in this fantastic industry where our entire job is to sing to the computer. That's all we do. We sing to the computer. We sing in code. We sing in configuration. We sing a song that we hope will honor the computer so that my phone will work and I can get a damn lift. Or other things that may happen. And so much of our computers today, right? I mean, it's either in the cloud, so we don't get to touch anymore, which is kind of a bummer, or it's a Mac, or it's a Windows box. I got my new job, and they're like, "What box do you want?" And my boss is like, "If you say Windows, you're fired." I'll take a Mac. A while ago, I was looking, and it really surprised me to learn that like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs were born in the same year. They're like months apart. I'm like, that's pretty cool. That's weird, right? That's weird. Why are they so close in age? Steve Wozniak, a little bit older, that's okay. But these are like the quintessential geeks who defined so much of our technology. What was happening in the 50s and in, you know, when they came into the workforce in the early 70s and like 60s that allowed them to be so freaking cool and define the technology. And who else was around there? There's some other cool people. There's like Radia Perlman. If you don't know her, check her out. She defined network routing, TCP/IP, spanning tree. She's from MIT, and there would be no internet without her. There was Richard Stallman. I'll get back to Richard. 1953. Bill Joy. Pen testers in the room? Can we all agree Java is the gift that keeps giving? Thank you, Bill Joy, right? Tim Berners-Lee also did a fantastic thing. He invented the web, but also pertinent to our conversation. In the original web proposal, there's this great line that says the project is blah, blah, blah. It's the web, we'll do things. Project is not security. No security. I'm like, that's fantastic. Thank you for day one saying, yeah, we're not going to secure it, and then we're going to run Java. Yes. So all these people come, they're in the 50s, right? They're hanging out, they're learning, they're doing cool stuff. 60s come around, we're going to skip over that. And then they're coming of age in a day where you don't have to use punch cards anymore. The computers actually look like the computers we know. Monitors, keyboards, cool stuff. They're not big buildings, they're not arcane stuff, you can touch them. And right around that time, the word hacker comes into being. 1963, first use of the word hacker in an MIT press book, or in an MIT paper, right, the tech. And I love this because right off the bat, hackers are like, yeah, we're messing up the system. Your phones, you don't need the phones, come on, right? Right off the bat, we're not necessarily the good guys. But we're curious, we're creative, we're doing cool things. So you look at the dictionary definition of hacker today. Of course, there's always a picture of a person with a hoodie. I will honor the person with the hoodie. I've got my own hacker hoodie. It's actually from BSides Charlotte. It's like my favorite hoodie, but that's neither here nor there. It's very warm. I'm sorry, BSides Charleston. But the definition, emphasis, mind, an expert at programming and solving problems. In the beginning, it was all about programming. Our song to the computer was in programming, because if you couldn't program it, it wasn't going to do a thing. It wasn't going to do anything. And that really defined what started a lot of people off in this career, off in this path. I'm going to define generations this way. I'm not going to use millennials and baby boomers. I think that's kind of beaten up. I'm going to call it Gen Zero. It sounds more hacker. Gen Zero. Those born in the 1950s and who entered the workforce in the 60s and 70s. Gen 1, 70s and 80s, my people, getting a little gray. Our beard's not quite long enough yet, but we're getting there, getting wizard level. What was happening when we were joining? The internet happened, and it was great. The way I got in to this industry is not legal today. I'll tell the story at the end if there's time. But it was like, hey, you look like a hacker. I'm like, I do. And they're like, you are thin and pasty and you have long hair. I'm like, I do. And they're like, can you sing the computer? I can sing the computer. And you had a job. That was all I needed. So you kids these days with your whole college degree, no, we were walking uphill 2 ways and getting a job because we look like a hacker. 90s and aughts, the people that I've been working with, the 67 people in that apprenticeship program, are coming into this in a very interesting inflection point. It's now a career. You come out with a degree. There's this talent shortage we hear about, millions of jobs unfulfilled, and then you have a degree and you sit there going, if there's millions of jobs unfulfilled, how come I don't have a job? Right? It's frustrating. So these are waves, right? There's differences, and when I'm talking about Gen 0, 1, 2, and 3, I'm talking about people around that time who face different and interesting technical challenges and different and interesting waves that propelled their careers forward. These were the waves that propelled their careers forward. But back to the computers. This is the state of our industry, this is the state of our community, and this is the history in that we're bringing forward in. And a lot of the conversations we have today tend to be around those sort of things. Wait a minute, you don't know how to program? I don't know, why would I need to program? You don't know how to run cables? Why would I need to run cables, right? It's in the cloud. Kids these days, they don't realize a cloud is someone else's computer. We do, but you realize it's like 5 cents on Amazon. I actually recently tore down my entire home lab. It was beautiful. A half-height rack. I loved it. My daughter, when she was little, did not quite understand what I did. And I thought she did because we'd have conversations and she'd nod and she'd get really excited. It was one time when she had her friends over and she went, "Psst, do you know the internet?" And her friend's like, "Yeah, I do. Come here, my dad has it in his room." And I was like, "Oh, honey, you don't know what I'm doing, but you're so cute." The point is, of course, that so much of it has changed, right? And today, that entire lab is gone, it's powered off, it's all in the cloud. Why? It's pennies on the dollar. Why wouldn't you do that? This is the state of our industry. This is the state of our community. Two. Let's talk about a little bit more about the people. Bill Joy, Unix, VI. Has anyone decided what the right editor is? Is the VI war still ongoing? Anyone know? Anyone weigh in? No? Huh?
That is the standard editor.
That is the standard. Nano. That's how I get kicked out of conferences. Bill Joy, right? This is his page from UC Berkeley. Bill Joy had a really interesting thing, quote he said, "You know what, when I started computing, it was awesome because you could program and the punch cards were going away." He's like, if I had started university 2 years earlier and had to learn a punch card, I would have been out. I would have been an astrologist, an accountant, because it was terrible. It was terrible back in the day, right? But he hit it at just the right time where he had access to computers, he could practice, he could hone his craft. He could build a lot of the foundational technologies that we run on. And he had to. He's like, hey, I want to be in the internet. And today we'd be like, I want to be in the internet. Find Wi-Fi. Oh, they didn't provision Wi-Fi. Connect to cellular. Boom, I'm on. Oh, it's slow. Okay. Bill Joy is like, I need to be on the internet. 6 months of his life writing a TCP/IP driver. Jeez, ouch. He has this quote, though, that I think is pertinent to this section. It's called Bill Joy's Law. Bill Joy's Law, no matter who you are, most of the smartest people work for somebody else. I love that. You gotta say it with a growl, too. Most of the smartest people are somewhere else. And it's pertinent to building products because you gotta really know what you're doing and focus on your strength. It's also very pertinent to hiring because it's very hard to hire because all the smart people are with somebody else. And we hear this all the time, right? 1 million jobs unfulfilled according to CSO, 3 million jobs unfulfilled according to ISC squared. I'm sure there's no conflict of interest for the people, but they say 3 million. And there's 0% unemployment, right? We hear this all the time. All the time it's drummed into our head. This is great. No one can, possibly, and it sounds really exciting. But in the beginning, you guys may have heard that I said in my academy programs, I had 55 qualified applicants for every one person I hired. So what is going on? Where is this disconnect? How can you have 55 people job searching, but we have 0% unemployment in 1 million jobs? So that's what we'll look at next. This is one of my academy teams. We hired in small teams, and about every 3 to 4 months we bring in a new team. They get together, they work on projects together. It's a really interesting way of doing it. Some of these folks, because it was so hard to get in, have really went very far. Annie over here, for the longest time, was one of my favorite people because she took to compliance and GRC like a duck out of water, and she loved reading regs, and I hate reading regs. And I'd be like, we need to do PCI. She's like, okay. I'm like, here it is. And she'd come back and it'd be done. I'm like, oh my God, you're amazing. She has since left. The 5th largest credit union in Michigan now has her as their head of compliance. Just a few years. And she was a waitress when she joined us. Really stellar person. Chelsea and Caleb have also went on to do great things. Jake, in the end, is now a manager for Detroit Casino, protecting them. And they've got money and things that people want to steal. So it's a thing. Pardon me?
You just want to borrow the money.
It's right. Just let me borrow it. I'll put it back. It's okay. I promise. So we had like over 220 people we interviewed to hire this team. I don't think we have a talent shortage. We say that all the time. We have a talent shortage. We can't find talent. We can't find talent. I would argue we have a hiring problem. We have a hiring problem in a big way. And it starts with this. It starts with going, hey, you look like a hacker, let me hire you, right? We want to hire all the same people who look like us, right? We want to hire the same people who look like someone who's already in the role. And it's a cognitive bias. I'm going to jump into cognitive biases in a minute. Bit of a background real quick. If you're getting in, you're like, hey, what skills do I need to learn? I'm not going to say you need to know how to program a TCP/IP driver. No, you need to know things like cognitive biases. How do people think? How can we hack the human mind? So much of the problems that we face today in security are last mile problems. How do we get the people to actually do the thing? So, hiring, back to hiring. A couple of different things here. One, like me bias. People are hardwired to like people who look like us, or look like someone who's pro on the team. Hey, John is awesome, therefore I hired Bill who looks like John. Bill must also be awesome. It's a weird quirk in our human brain, is how it works. Performance bias is similar. We're hardwired to go, hey, you look like me. You therefore perform better. We're like, wait a minute, do you really? I don't know. But it doesn't matter because we got a choice support bias, which is the manager's greatest trick. Greatest trick a manager ever did. Think about every manager you ever worked for that you didn't like. He was always sure he was right? Choice support bias. My choices are fantastic. Clearly Bill is good like John, even though Bill sucks and everyone else is doing his work. No offense, Bill. So how do you handle these biases? How do you work around? Some tips and tricks for getting better people into the industry. One is promoting. The job descriptions are terrible, right? Thou shalt have 10 years of experience since the beginning, yes, for an entry-level job that you will also be driving Lyft on just to make your bills. Oh, and by the way, I hope you can roll your own TCP/IP driver. So one, flexible job descriptions. I think as we become an industry, we try to standardize what the jobs are, and that's almost like antithetical to hackerness, right? Everyone in this room should not fall into like 3 different job categories. Everyone in this room has different backgrounds, different skills, different aptitudes, different things you like, different things you loathe. Do the thing you like. I want the job description to be great of like, hey, looking for awesome people, and you're gonna do the thing you like, and what we don't like, we'll find someone who likes that. That would be a cool job description. So 1, we need better job descriptions. 2, we need better recruiting. We recruit all the same pool all the time. And it makes sense. I mean, we got Ally here, we got other people here who are hiring. They come to these conferences, they hire from these conferences. So you're in the right spot if you're looking to get started. What about the people who can't make it to these conferences? You know, what about them? How do they get the life in? So one of the things we did at the Academy is we did a lot of recruiting from non-traditional sources. Pre-screening, reading resumes blind. It's amazing how different the pool of people we interview looks when you run through a bunch of resumes and with no names, no ages on it. Suddenly you get different people, who knew? Interviewing, we would bring in different people, different perspectives. Some of the Academy teams, some of the best people that we had on my Academy teams were people that I went, nah, I don't want to hire them. And one of my people were like, no, but they're really good because of this. I'm like, I guess I'll take a chance, but I don't see it. And then there are rock stars. And then I'm like, oh man, my choice supportive bias isn't working today. I suck. No, but so bring in different diverse people to interview to get a different perspective so that the like me bias is canceled out by having a bunch of different people who look like the rest of the world in your job pool. And the last thing is post interviews, leaving them good. We've got to do a better job of leaving them good. We would interview people. When I say we, let me be very clear. Me, one of my first jobs as a manager, I interviewed people, and I had this great idea. I hope you guys agree with me this is a great idea. I thought if I was really mean in the interview, then people, the strong people would stay, right? And so I would ask these questions, and I'd be like, what support RDP is on? They're like 3389. I'm like, great. How does it transfer the internet? This way. Okay, great. So on the 4th bit of that packet, and I keep asking questions until they broke. And then that would be, oh, okay, you lasted about 20 minutes. I'll hire you. I thought this was a good idea. This is a terrible idea. I was so stupid. I ran into people like 5 years later and I felt real bad. I was at a coffee shop. I ran into this guy. I'm like, hey, what have you been doing? Didn't I talk to you like 5 years ago? He's like, yeah, absolutely. I go, what do you do now? He's like, I'm an accountant. I'm like, I'm so sorry. What happened? He goes, well, after you interviewed me, I realized I really didn't belong in this field. So leave them good. One of our things that I was very proud of with the academy program is our post-interview process. For those 200 people we didn't hire, we just go, okay, you suck, bye. We had plugged them into the local B-Sides. We plugged them into the local security meetup community. We plugged them into a group called MySec, which is a very broad community across Southeast Michigan. We pointed them at Cybrary and other free learning resources. We was like, hey, here's how you skill up. Here's what you're missing. Here's how to do it. And then we invited them back for other interviews. And oftentimes people wouldn't get it the first time, but 2 teams later they would have skilled up and be ready. So I think it's so important we leave people in a real good space after we interview them. Fundamentally, and this is talking to my people again, we need to go find the weird, but we need to find better weird. You know, I think there's this great thing in our hacker community of embracing the weird people. And think about the weird people, right? Who are the weird people, right? The people with the mohawks, the people with the flamethrowers, the people with the, you know, cool clothes that look like they just got out of bed and are wearing a conference t-shirt but have like a blazer over top of it. You know, all those sorts of things, right? Those are cool people. Those are the weird people that we accept. And then someone comes in who doesn't conform to our idea of nonconformity. You know, like, oh, we can't deal with you. What? I think, you know, diversity, inclusion, hacker style means going out and finding new weird. Weird that does not conform with our idea of weird, weird that does not match where we're at today, weird that can shake things up and flip over tables, much like Gen Zero did in the 60s and 70s, right? So, find new weird. 3, okay, that's great, but what do we need to do? So we don't have a talent shortage, as I've already argued. We do have a skill shortage. We have a major skill shortage. And before you're like, yeah, absolutely, we have a skill shortage. People today don't know how to roll their own TCP driver. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Damn them. Or crimp cables. No one crimps cables anymore. In my day, when you wired up a building, uphill both ways, vampire clamps. So we have a skill shortage. So I'm going to talk in this section about some of the skills. These are not technical skills. I'm sorry. You can tweet at me that I suck. It's right over there is my handle. Today in B-Sides Charlotte, you have lots of opportunity to find out the technical skills. Network, enjoy the sessions. They'll go into it much deeper. But I want to return for just a moment, if I may, to our friend and yours, Richard Stallman. This is a picture from his MIT page. He recently was, what's the colloquialism? Invited to add value elsewhere. From both MIT and the Free Software Foundation, FSF. That happened this month. If you're interested, you can read about it. If you're not, don't worry about it, it doesn't matter. Here's the point. The point is, as those who knew RMS directly and those who know RMS adjacently go, that guy's a jerk. We all know he was a jerk. But hey, he did some cool stuff. He wrote new, and he was pushing free software, and we wanted to stick it to Microsoft. Back in the day, we all wanted to stick it to Microsoft. You say that to kids now, they're like, but Microsoft's cool. They do the Xbox. Like, don't you remember Bill Gates, the Borg? And they're like, who's Bill Gates, that philanthropist? Yes, Microsoft's cool now. But back in the day, he was the one sticking it to the man. And now he's out, now he's gone. I would argue there's 2 reasons for this, 2 main shifts. One is the shift in the value of skills, which I'll cover first, and then next, the shift in the composition of the workplace. We're finding new weird, which is fantastic, and we're finding new ways of doing things, which changes things up. You know, if you think about this, not necessarily in terms of ages, but in terms of waves of technology, Jack touched on this quite a bit, right? In the beginning, it was fantastic. It was isolated technology. People born in the 50s and 60s entering the workforce faced computers that were predominantly isolated. They were not necessarily networked. There was a lot of work just to get them to talk. There's lots of singing going on and not lots of producing by the machines. We kept singing to the machines and singing, and eventually it started beeping this weird language that sounded like a robot dying. And that's where my people came in, and modems. Modems are great. And we began to have this wave of connected technology, right? And what changed was the need to know how to get the computers necessary to work, but now it became the need to have the computers talk and communicate and set up stuff on the web and promote stuff that way. Now, of course, today, everything's free, everything's cheap. People entering the workforce is all about ubiquitous technology. Gen 1, our generation, needed a great deal of technical knowledge, but we also need enough social knowledge because it's all connected, and we needed to sell the idea of what we're doing to people who are not technical. And sometimes this worked very well, sometimes it didn't. one example of this, oh my God. All right, I'm gonna tell you guys a story, you can laugh at me. I was selling, I had sold and was implementing a multi-site VPN in the 90s. And this was a day and age where you actually had to buy separate pieces of hardware to do a VPN. Like, here's a VPN concentrator, here's your IPsec tunnel, here's 3 pieces of Cisco hardware to install with a switch. It was, yeah, it was wow. I'm like, what am I doing? So we sold this and I'm building it and I'm working with my team and we're like halfway through the implementation. And I was managing a team. This is when I was interviewing terribly, so poor team. But I'm managing this team and we're in an open area and they're whiteboarding it out and they're whiteboarding the next set. And I'm looking at him, stroking my beard. And in walks the vice president. I didn't notice he walked in, but in walks the vice president of the company. He's watching us. I'm looking at him now. I was saying, I get it now. And they all turn and stare at me and they're like, what? And I'm like, oh, subnetting, now it makes sense. And the VP goes, did you just say you don't know how to do subnetting? I'm like, yes. He goes, didn't we sell like $1 million worth of Cisco equipment that you've been configuring and doing VPNs on? Yes. And you don't know subnetting? I'm like, do you know if you type the numbers in and they're the same, it seems to work? He's like, I'm concerned. I go, but the customers love me. I'm like, oh, okay. He was a little bit more hesitant on the next project, but that was the day and age we walked into. You could have a little bit of tech knowledge and a little bit of people knowledge and make things work in connected tech. Now as we get into ubiquitous tech, the problem that we're facing today with controls is last mile, right? The people who are entering the workforce right today are the people who have to like convince DevOps people that there should be security in there. You know, oh, let's put in a new, let's call it DevSecOps. We'll just convince them to switch the acronyms. Because the developers don't want to do it, because they created DevOps to avoid us security people. That was the whole idea, people. You could write code fast, you could push to production and break things with no security. MFA, right? Let's do MFA. MFA is fantastic. It's easy. It will stop business email compromise. The #1 way criminals are making money because ransomware is getting harder. I saw a thing in the Wall Street Journal. I read the Wall Street Journal. Please don't judge me. I don't actually run Nano though, so if that gives me any points. But like 80% of the people are like, oh, we don't do MFA because it's too hard and it's too cumbersome. A lot of these problems are not technical problems anymore. We all know we should patch stuff, right? Everyone know we should patch stuff? Yeah, absolutely. Do IT guys want to patch stuff? No, it's all talking to other people now into doing things. And that's kind of where Gen 2 is entering the game. And it takes a lot to be good at things. And there's always that trade-off, right? The human mind can only do so much. Neuroplasticity is a thing. So whatever you're focusing in on is where you tend to get good. And back in the day, you spent a lot of time with the machines, which meant you didn't spend a lot of time with people. That was me too. My handle in the 90s, I don't oftentimes say this, but it's pertinent to the story, was trance. It was trance. If you find the old BBS logs, not that trance, it was another guy. Because I would spend like 12 hours, 24 hours, 36 hours staring at the computer, programming, trying to get my code to run, and my friends would walk in and I'd be like sleeping under the desk, or they'd be like waving their hand and like, must code, must sing to the machine, right? And so I ended up with that handle. And that was so many of us. We got into this because we had access to the machines and we had free reign and we built technical skills that way. Which always comes at a cost of what you're focusing on. All right, so that was me then. Then I built data centers. So I'm going to show you a picture. I'm very proud of it. Okay, you guys ready? I'm not going to show you pictures of my kids, for one, but I'm going to show you this because this is great. This is cabling I did. Can you guys see that in the back? Isn't that pretty? Look at the fiber channel. Yeah, it's all right. It's KVM cables in there. It's a QLogic card. We did an entire data center, and I was so proud of this cabling. And we had like racks and racks of this stuff, and I could name like every part in this thing. And so today, when my generation is interviewing, we're like, well, tell me what a fiber channel card is. And kids are like, cloud? And then we get mad, right? We're like, well, these, they don't know anything. And so we're like, well, you should take like CompTIA certs. Has anyone looked at like the CompTIA Net Plus cert recently? It's ridiculous. I was joking about the coax cables, but they literally have a section on coax cables. Why are we doing this to people? And it reminds me of when I was growing up and people were like, so Wolf, when are you going to get a real job? That was about 10 years ago. That was a family member, a family reunion. But early in the 90s, they were like, well, you need to like work on cars. I was in Detroit, right? How do you get a good job? You're an auto mechanic. You know how to work on cars. That's where all the jobs are. I'm like, I don't know how to work on cars. I've never changed my own in my life. Do you know you can pay $50 and someone does it for you? You sit in your car, you tweet, and they do it for you. It's phenomenal. But it was the same thing, right? My parents' generation was like, well, you don't have any tech skills. You can't change the oil in a car. And now we're like, you don't have any tech skills. You've never cabled a data center. Come on, it's a skills problem. So point one is the skills that we needed to get here are not the skills they need to get there. Now, it's just some real talk to my generation, and we need to remember that because the skills moving forward are changing and we need to have those conversations ongoing. As my academy grew, we would build bigger teams. This is a later team photo. Some great people here. You may notice that the team starts to look more like the real world, which I like. Megan is awesome. I told her to do already. Ha! Gilberto now is one of the lead engineers at a bank. Jordan back here is, she's part of WISP, Women in Security and Privacy. She's actually the DEF CON ambassador. So for anyone who wants to go to DEF CON, there's scholarships for women, and she runs that program. Great group of people who taught me a lot of things about what matters today. And one of the things, too, that we started to notice is we got more and more people who look different by doing the things I talked about in terms of finding new weird. And this ended up being a trend that we see across the industry, right? Women in InfoSec was like, wow, there's a woman in the room. That was like the 90s and the aughts. And now we're about 10% in 2010. Around this time I had a team, I think I had 2 women on my team. 2020 we're on route for 24%. So a quarter of the workforce is where we're headed. And we're pretty close to that. So we're witnessing the shift in real time, this cultural shift that goes along with these demographics. Because maybe if you're the only person in the room, you don't say anything about Stallman. Maybe if you're a quarter of the workforce, the rest of us go, what the hell, right? Why are we putting up with this? Why are we letting our coworkers be treated like this? And it's not inconsequential. One of my colleagues at Duo presented at Black Hat. She presented at Black Hat on some of our hiring practices at Duo. I think it was called like Woke Hiring Won't Save Us or something. Really good talk, find it on YouTube. But riled up people, and then 4chan gets involved, and then they douse it with all these terrible comments about women and security and everything. And I'm like, what is going on? Why are we putting up with this? You know? And I think we're seeing the shift where people just don't need to put up with it anymore, and shouldn't. And so the next point is having technical skills no longer excuses bad people skills. RMS could get away with it for a long time because people are like, yeah, but he's fighting Microsoft. He wrote cool code. Yeah, but he's a terrible human being. Why are we putting up with it? And I think as we move forward, we need to hold ourselves and our community to that higher standard. That was heavy. Let's get back to hacking. Hacker definition, right? Emphasis mine. It's moving from programming to solving problems. That guy in the hoodie. Those problems mean more people hacking. I love the social engineering. I've opted to become a social engineering target. It's on my badge. I love those things. Those challenges are fantastic, so take advantage of them. What skills do people need that I'm asked all the time? A lot of it is good people skills, self-awareness, self-management, being able to have good relationships. And then the meta skills is really where it is. This is where the money is, people. No one goes, yeah, you have a great career if you're good at studying. But you will, right? Because it's a meta skill. The tech is always changing. There's this great article out a few years ago about dead and dying technology. I'm like, I wonder what's dead and dying. I opened it up. I'm like, oh my God, I made all my money on that. Bring it back. Doesn't anyone want to talk about Lotus Notes anymore? No. Move on. Yes, sorry, trigger warning. I should have done the trigger warning on that one. Bad me. When I was in the early aughts, I won this contract to build this web user interface. It was pretty cool, it was pretty slick at the time. Today it's like, yeah, yawn. But the idea was we put a web interface in front of everything. We had this web interface to get back into the mainframe. We had all our web apps through it. It was basically a launcher and a portal in one. And I won the contract. I'm like, yes. And I'm like, but I don't know what I'm doing. I had no idea. I had like no IDE. I was using a text editor and running the code, and I get a server 500. I'm like, well, that didn't work. Redo my code, redo it again. And so I'm like, I don't feel good about this. So I went to the key stakeholder in the project. I'm like, before you sign, can we talk? Closes the door. He's like, yeah, what's in your mind, Wolf? And I said, I don't know what I'm doing. And he looked at me for a long moment. He goes, I know. I'm like, good, as long as we're on the same page. Do you want to hire me for this project? He goes, I could hire a developer and engineer. I'm like, you should. And right then, I should have had the idea for DevOps. If I had had it then, I would have made a lot of money, but I didn't. I'm like, you should. Those guys would know what they're doing. I don't. I'm like, yeah, but you know other things. I'm like, what? He goes, well, you know the team, you build good relationships, you know how to learn, whatever I throw at you, you can figure out. He's like, I'm not paying you to know. I'm paying you to learn and implement. I'm paying you to solve problems. And a light bulb went on over my head. And I'm like, great. Because that felt more authentic, right? I don't have to fake that I know what I'm doing when I don't. We're on the same page. I'm like, yes, I'm selling you my ability to study. And he goes, what? And I go, never mind, I'm talking out loud. So how do you do this? How do you move people forward? This is a coaching framework that I followed in my academy program. It is blissfully stolen from the first 90 days. We talk about people along 4 different dimensions. We coach them about how to manage their perceptions. We coach them about how to build relationships. We coach them about how to build competencies. I think those 3 areas are the key skills moving forward for this next gen coming into our security. And then you bring all this together and you do stuff that actually matters, right? What are the wins? What does your employer care about? What does the community care about? Whatever it may be. I don't know what that is. You got to figure that out yourself. You have relationships for that. This breaks down into 2 different ways. You can think about it in terms of people skills and technical skills you want, the hard and the soft skills. I always like that. What's harder, hard or soft skills? Soft skills. But we'll call it that way. It's all good. All right, and it's not like you can't not know the machine, right? So you guys are still probably wondering, hey, what are the right technical skills to learn? That's a talk in and of itself. Please enjoy B-Side Charlotte and get that information out. When you find out, let me know. Because that's not what this is about. This is about having a good career, and this is about moving your ball forward. All right, 4. When having a good career and being a hacker, what does that mean? What's different between being an accountant and a hacker? What's different than being a clerical worker and a hacker? I'd say one of the main things is we break stuff, right? No hacker ever succeeded by embracing the status quo and accepting things as they are. We don't color in the lines. And if you think about it, there's a good reason for that. Gen Zero, right? 1960s. My generation, the 1990s counterculture. I mean, we had Nirvana. It probably doesn't compare to Jimi Hendrix. You can make some argument. Never mind. But you see my point, right? I mean, we grew up sticking it to the man. We grew up with that rebel status in our community, and we really need to preserve it. So I was thinking about this the other day. My wife is with me. We're at a, was it the Fisher Theater? Fisher Theater, all right. So we have theater tickets, and she makes sure I'm at the right theater, which is good. And we were watching School of Rock, which was a fantastic musical. It's a great movie. The actor was doing a very good Jack Black impersonation. And the song comes on, Stick It to the Man. Anyone know the song? Anyone know, like, you know, no? No one's gonna sing along with me, no one's gonna admit to it. But they're like, yeah, stick it to the man. They're like, you know, there's been all these problems since the world began. You need to take it, just stick it to the man. I'm like, stick it to the man. And my wife's like, hey. I'm like, stick it to the man. I'm like, hey. I'm like, what? She goes, hey. I go, what? She goes, look around. I'm like, okay, there's a theater. There's a bunch of middle-aged people to my left. There's middle-aged people to my right. I'm in a suit. I'm like, yes. She goes, you're the man. You realize that, right? Damn it. So, my people, my generation, right? We need to let them stick it to the man. How do we make sure that we can continue in being the rebel status when the people now report to us? That's not easy. That's not easy. You know, go break something. Go break a rule. Don't listen to what I say. Go stick it to the man because I'm the man. And honestly, you'll be fine, right? Trust me, nothing's going to happen. I'm just writing this up for HR. So it's so important that we set up systems so that we can allow our younger folks coming in to stick it to the man, because that rebelliousness is such an integral part of our community, of our industry, and that rebelliousness is what pushes the envelope forward and is what will get us where we need to go. The second part of that, and including sticking to the man, key skill, breaking rules. Everyone likes to break rules here, right? You gotta break a couple rules. There's an art to breaking rules. I actually have rules on breaking rules. I will share with you a few. Number one, break a rule every day. It keeps you fresh. Break something. There's something that people are asking you to do that we really shouldn't do. Next one, getting out of trouble is a muscle. You gotta exercise that muscle, right? Get yourself into trouble and get out of it. With a smile, with panache. We're hackers, come on. Never break a rule which you cannot accept the consequences of breaking. This is an important one. If you can't afford the speeding ticket, don't drive 125 miles an hour. If you can, do it and talk yourself out of that ticket and then let us know, because that's an awesome story. So be accountable. Never break a rule where someone else pays. I actually had to add this one, because I'm like, break a rule every day. And they're like, yeah, we broke a rule. I'm like, awesome, what'd you do? Yeah, we walked out on our restaurant bill. You realize that the wait staff has to pay with their tips for that, right? Oh, no, I didn't. Yeah, don't break a rule where someone else has to be accountable. We need to be gentle in the world in how we go about this. And finally, my favorite is be bold. Tell them when you're going to break the rule. Especially good when you got a manager who encourages you to stick it to the man. Oh, by the way, I'm breaking that rule. We were at a speaker dinner last night, and one of the organizers of the speaker dinner comes up to me. Not organizers of this event, but organizers of the place. And she's like, here's the rules. You need to do this, you need to do that. Can I count you to do this? I go, no. She goes, what? I go, I'm going to break one of these. She's like, okay. And then I got an award for it at the end of the day, so it all worked out. All right. Gen 2 entering in has its own, they don't have Woodstock, right? But we've got a tidal wave of things that I think have formed the background of this generation. Harry Potter, right? Hunger Games, Marvel movies. We've been brought up for the last 20 years some great media on breaking the rules and sticking it to the man. That's what we grow up on. It's fantastic. And so what does that mean for those of you entering in? That means, surprise, you're the hero. You're the hero of the story. You got fantastic skills. Jack and I don't have them anymore. We're looking at you guys. Build the stuff. And as us putting together teams, we need to realize that, hey, you guys are the heroes, right? How do we encourage heroes? How do we build heroes, right? We're no longer, well, I don't want to be any of them anyways. No, it actually would be kind of cool to be Iron Man. We're Nick Fury in this picture, right? Gen 1, my people, we're Nick Fury. We're building the people together. We're starting the movie. We're giving them the resources, and we're getting the hell out of the way as they do awesome stuff. And then oftentimes I get to go back and play with Excel. I actually do love Excel. Quick side note, someone's like, I would marry Excel if it could make me coffee. And like by the end of that meeting, I'm like, here's how you can have Excel making a coffee. We're gonna bond you an IoT, and you'd write the Chapter 5. So congratulations, younger people coming in. You are the hero. It's probably what you're feeling like on the inside right now. You may be having some imposter syndrome. One, if you're not feeling imposter syndrome, don't feel like an imposter because you're not feeling imposter syndrome. That's a little bit circular, right? Don't do that. Second thing is we all feel that way. And I honestly have come to hone imposter syndrome as a engine light or as a sign that I'm in the right direction, right? Because if I feel that way, I'm like, I am in the right room. You all are better than me and I don't belong here. Perfect, let's do it. So, first, the good news for the heroes in the room. We are well compensated, which is fantastic. The starting salary in the state is $63,000 for information security professionals. The median income is $60,000. State after state, when I do a similar talk and I pull the numbers, it's always this way. Information security, isn't that weird? We start right out of college and we're making more than most people in the state. Strange to think of, strange to think of. So that's the good news. We're off to a good start. We got a good life going on. We have some responsibility with that, obviously. Now the bad news. We are effectively elite athletes mentally. This is what we do. Maybe not that elite. That's how I feel, right? Yeah, I think someone said that's how I wish. Like, yeah, there's my abs. That's how, no. So my point is this, though. My point is this. I will say work-life balance one time in this talk, and it's to say that I'm not saying work-life balance in this talk. In this community, in this industry, a lot of us, to excel at it, it becomes our lives. This is what we do. We travel like athletes. Some of us spend way too much time in airports. We're constantly training, we're constantly studying, we're constantly aware that if we slow down, that we can fall behind, and once you fall behind, it's very hard to catch back up again. It is constant running, constant motion. And it's stressful, right? We need to handle that stress. So, good rule is embrace the stress. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. I would start my academy interviews days saying, congratulations, have you guys watched the A-Team? I did that for 2 teams, and I realized no one watched the A-Team. Like, I need a new metaphor. But it really is like that. I'm like, I'm gonna give you a paperclip, I'm gonna give you a roll of duct tape, I'm gonna give you some gunpowder, I'm gonna give you half the money you need and a quarter of the time you need, and we're gonna do something awesome. And some of my team would be like, that's great, that stresses me out, but that's awesome. Another one of my team, if you talk to some of the people in my camp, be like, oh my God, I don't ever want to work for Wolf again. I mean, you know what he asked me to do. I'm like, yes, but we did it, didn't we? That's not the point. So you got to become comfortable being uncomfortable. You know that there's this great analogy with trees in Biodome 2. Biodome 2, of course, is the big dome that was built that everyone was using to figure out, can we get to Mars? And they planted a whole bunch of trees. Right? So they have all these trees in the dome, and the trees keep falling over. People are like, why the hell are these trees falling over? There's nothing going on. And I start looking at it. What it ended up being was, because there's no wind on the tree, because there's no stress in the tree grew no roots. And therefore, the slightest thing would knock it over. In security, we've got to be able to have deep roots, and those deep roots are in our community, and we have to be able to handle the stress that comes with this job. Now, burnout's real, don't get me wrong. This is how a lot of us think about burnout. I was so good, but now I'm burnt and broken. And that does happen to people, don't get me wrong, I'm not downplaying that. But I would argue that a better analogy for burnout is something like this, which is, I feel great, and then I'm dead. And this cycle can be through a day. This cycle, my personal way, is about 6 weeks. First couple weeks, I'm like, man, I will do anything. I'm talking to my boss, I'm like, I will write that white paper, I will give 4 talks. By the way, I signed up for 4 talks in 3 weeks, all different talks, all different slide decks. What the hell was I thinking? I was over here, I'm like, I can do it all. And now I'm over here going, coffee, right? But we're used to this though, right? We're used to running down batteries and recharging things. And I think this is a good metaphor because there's 2 different things you need. 1, you need good power management, and 2, you need things that do your recharging. So here's some tips for both. For power management, stress management toolbox. Have a toolbox, have a way of planning your schedule that includes things that will preserve your sanity because you will need it. Food and sleep, obviously. I love my massages. That's one of my favorite ones. I had a massage right before coming out here because, again, I'm over here at the moment. So I had this massage. I'm sitting down with my masseuse, and she's like, what did you do to your back? I'm like, you don't want to know how many talks I signed up for. She's like, you are a crazy man. I'm like, I know. Can I get like an extra half hour? So massages, taking time off, right? We need to take our time. I don't know why this industry is like, we don't take our time off. Ha, I am man. I do not need rest. Like, yeah, have you like looked at yourself recently? You know, there is like a world outside this data center. So taking the vacations. So there's having planned points throughout your week, throughout your month to balance and recharge. And then knowing what charges you up, right? Could be sports, could be exercise. I love hitting the gym, that always charges me up. Could be music. I love getting off planes with the the Mission Impossible theme song going on. No one knows it. They're like, what is this weird guy doing, power walking? He is not Tom Cruise. I am Tom Cruise in that moment. I am ready. I walk right off. I hit the lift. I do my meeting. Life is good. Hacker conference is another one. I always whenever I'm at these conferences, I always come back with a whole bunch of ideas and a whole bunch of excitement. So know what charges you up and plan those things out within your week so that you've got a variety of different things that are pushing you forward and preserving your energy. That's how to handle the stress, but it's also important to know to handle the stop, right? Short-term stress, awesome, focuses you, makes you more creative, gives you ideas, allows you to do the impossible. Long-term stress, terrible, takes away your creativity, takes away your ability to sing to the machine. So know the difference. There are indicator lights for this. I'll give you some of my favorite ones and some advice on what to do. Physiological effects, if you can't sleep, if you're gaining weight, all those sort of things. Maybe do some of the balance activities I mentioned earlier, or GTFO. GTFO will be a recurring theme, by the way, for those who just laughed. Non-competitive compensation. Why the heck would we take non-competitive compensation? Don't do it, folks, don't do it. And of any industry that should have equal compensation for people, regardless of gender or ethnicity, it shouldn't be ours. I mean, we're the ones who sing to the machine. You can sing to the machine if we sing to the machine equally, you should be paid equally. If not, we need a GTFO. Lack of training. Athletes, if we're not training, we're not maintaining, and we're gonna fall behind. So make time, talk to your boss. Career path, if there's not one, level up, get out, or GTFO. Poor teamwork is another one. There's all sorts of ways that we can be better teammates, and I think we should. But at the end of the day, the human being is a fantastic pack animal. We are a great caveman singing to the machine. And as a pack animal and a caveman, our strength has always been each other, right? The people in the room that bring down the woolly mammoth in the data center. I think that analogy just got weird. But you know what I'm saying. So if the team sucks, get out. If your leadership sucks, get out. Nothing defines your experience of the company more or less than its leader. It's actually one of the reasons why I left many jobs. If they don't appreciate you or recognize you, maybe you've got expectations set wrong, maybe you don't understand your job, or maybe they don't understand what you're doing, so try and fix that. If not, GTFO. Misaligned values and culture. I don't know how to undo this one. If you're sitting there going, oh man, I feel slimy at what I do in my job, GTFO, right? We are the average of the people that we hang out with, and we're the average of the things we do. And if we're not in a good spot, we need to get out. And don't tape over these lights either. I think because there's such a lack of talent, and the perception of lack of talent right now, by hanging out when any of these things are wrong, we're actually not only hurting ourselves, but we're hurting our industry, because we're teaching companies that they can treat us a certain way and get away with it. Because, oh, they stayed clear, it's okay. I can lower my salary, I can lower my values, I can do those sort of things. So if you're in these situations, it's not right. Don't tape over the indicator lights, GTFO. Now, more about GTFO. Quitting beats coping when it frees you up to excel at something that fits you. That is awesome. I'm not encouraging anyone to always quit their job, though. You need to know, is this short-term stress or long-term stress? Long-term stressors, absolutely do something about it. Short-term stressors, don't quit over it. Look back to some of the things I was talking about, stress relief, because short-term stressors will come and go. Well, I'll have a bad quarter. I'll have a bad couple months. There was a time a couple years ago where every single week I was coming home to my wife, I'm like, I made it. I just need to make it through the next week. She goes, do you know how long you've been saying that? I said, don't tell me. I don't want to know, right? But I made it through. It was a 6-8 week project, and we crushed it, and then we moved on. Knowing when to stay and when to go is really what ultimately will help us become those elite athletes, those elite mental athletes that we need to be. All right, in conclusion, I still got time, right? I kind of did good at time. I will tell you the story about how I got into IT. This is my first computer that I owned. Thank you. It was a beautiful machine, and I sang to it. It booted right into BASIC, which meant anything I wanted to do, I had to program. It did not have the idea of sprites yet, so I would take an ASCII map and do all my animations by messing around with ASCII maps. Stupid, but fun. And this was maybe when I was like 9 or 10, and I wanted to be a hacker, right? So as I became a teenager, I got on BBSs. I wanted to be a hacker. I'm like, what do you need to prove yourself as a hacker? I'd watch war games and sneakers, and I'd watch Tron. I had assumed that there's something to do with a light cycle. I never did find out how to be a hacker with a light cycle. But everyone would be like, you need to be root or sysadmin. Okay. And so, so a few years go by, I end up being at a hospital. I was working at a hospital about 17. I got in as basically like in a support staff role. My girlfriend was there, so I figured I'd work there too. Follow your passions, people, follow your passions. And then I was spending a lot of time with the nurses because teenage boy. And we were at the time building a network. It was very modern with Windows 3X, NetWare 3.1.2, and it did actually have CAT cable, so at least we had Ethernet. It was good. And it was hard, and it kept breaking, and I would help out as I could. And we finally got online. The minute we finally got online, the nurse who was in charge of that project, she quit. She was out, she's done. She didn't want to be in IT, she wanted to be in healthcare, she was done. So the director of nursing calls me down to her office. And she was an incredible woman. She was 5'2", in her 50s, Texas woman who everyone was terrified of. She was awesome. So I'm in her office, I'm sure I'm getting in trouble. She's looking at me and she goes, "I've been watching you." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in trouble." And she's like, "I want to offer you a job to run our IT." I'm like, "This is awesome." And I said, I remember it very clearly, I said, "I have one condition." And you guys know that time when you say something, you immediately want to take it back? Because the room temperature fell 10 degrees, folks. There was a tin whistle and tumbleweed in the background, and I was sure I was going to get shot. So when I was on these BBSs, BBS culture was a whole other thing, and you would oftentimes get in and ask things, and they'd tell you that you're stupid, and you keep asking until they got an answer, and then you change your name, because now you're the smart guy who knows things. And so I'd be like, "All right, how do I get root sysadmin?" They're like, "You need to rummage through the trash." That sounds gross. Is there a better way? Well, you can call people and lie to them and get the passwords. Like, call people? Like, talk to them? Like, verbally? That doesn't sound fun. And then, "Oh, you can write code to exploit vulnerabilities." I'm like, "Yes, I can sing to the machine." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" Mind you, this is the 90s. No one knew singing to the machine yet. So, I'm in the room, and the director of nursing is staring at me. I'm staring at her. She's staring at me. And after a very long, pregnant pause, she goes, "What is your condition?" And I said, "I need to have root sysadmin." She looked at me, and I looked at her. And she goes, "Deal, and I'll give you $2 an hour more." Like, "You're on." And I left there, I'm like, "I'm a hacker. This is the best thing ever. No trash. I didn't have to write any code. I just had to ask for it." And that was how I started my career as a blue team defender, right? At a hospital protecting things. I want to ask you guys today, can you imagine any hospital in America that would hire a 17-year-old kid just out of high school and say, "Sure, have root sysadmin, run our IT, and all the health records are over there"? No, no. And yet we're gonna sit around and go, "Well, kids these days, in my day, they just showed up. We don't even need college degrees." A lot of people in my generation don't have college degrees. You know why? Because we showed up and they went, "You know how to sing?" And we're like, "We do. You got a job." It was great. I'm sorry, those born in the 90s. But that's how I got in. That's why I say it's no longer legal, because the way I got in and the way a lot of our generation got in doesn't quite work anymore. Another definition of hacking I like is hacking is understanding the system better than it understands itself and nudging it to do what you want. The system was IT, right? Back in the day, or the telephone system if you want to go back to the 60s. It was IT, it was in isolation. But today, IT is the backbone of everything, the backbone of our government, the backbone of I started thinking about our government, I got discouraged. The backbone of our government, of our businesses, of our life, it's the backbone of everything. And what that means is our system is this really interesting closed loop between the technology and the people. And so, moving forward, we can't just limit ourselves to hacking on the equipment. We have to nudge both the people and the machine. So, key points to my generation and those before me who are currently the employers and the man, unfortunately. We need to open new roads for InfoSec. We need to go beyond what looks like us, what's come before. We need to find those people and bring them in. We need to use our positions, our very fortunate positions. We're in this really cool, weird bubble that suddenly computers occurred and people know how to do it and we got jobs. We need to use those positions we got from there to protect those who are coming in and drive things forward. We need to share more than technical skills. We need to share life skills and how to build a career over the longer term, because every tech skill we have is dead or dying, and I don't necessarily mean me, I mean every skill we all have is dead or dying. That's the beauty of technology. It changes every few years. And we need to build the people coming up as the heroes they are. We need to be the Nick Fury we want to see in the world. Sound good, didn't it? Sound kind of great. All right. To the avocados in the room. Don't be a jerk just because they're not an avocado, people. Come on. Find new weird. Find people not like you. Don't let hacking become just a job. This is this really weird thing that we all do, that we hang out in conferences, and we hang out in bars, and we get to party, and we get to travel. Preserve that. Preserve that as long as we can. This is a limited time bubble, and I don't know how long it'll run. Run it hard, run it long. Remember that systems are social and technical. We need to hack both. And for God's sakes, people, flip over some tables. But not here. Protect this venue. Thank you, Bank of America. We are reaching 6 years of hacking, if you date it from that first mention at MIT. 6 years of hacking, right? I want to hit it hard. I want to hit it with things that we haven't seen before. Some we have, some we need to amplify, some we need to create. I want to hit the 6-year anniversary with a degree of humility and curiosity. I want to hit that degree with cooperation. I want to hit it hard, preserving our rebel status and preserving our ability to sing to the machines. I want to continue breaking some rules, but I want to see us build some people. And that's it. Thank you much, guys.